And what I want to do first is go over the exam, maybe in 10, 15 minutes. And I have uploaded the uh, code that I created for the two questions. You should look at the exam one folder under content to get to see that. And I also have made the multiple choice part available to you. I think the questions and answers can be seen. And so let's go over those things now. Okay. Now let me share my screen. This is the multiple choice part. Okay. Question one, Java class can extend at most one class, but can implement any number of interfaces. That is the right choice. That is a restriction that was imposed by Java, whereas some other languages like C++, you can extend multiple classes, and that can lead to really confusing code. So in that sense, Java is a little simpler. A UML class diagram can show the name, the fields, and methods. So the correct choice is this. A bank allows joint accounts. Multiple customers may own the same account. At the same time, a customer may hold more than one account. So the relationship is then many to many. Which of the following is true of a static field? Then it may be accessed by a constructor, a static method, or an instance method. Anybody can access a static field within the class. A static field is created as at the time the class is loaded. So it's created before any instances of the class in which it is declared are created. Suppose we have a method called o1.m, then the keyword this, when the code is in M, is the same as o1. So write the name of the Java package that has linked list. There shouldn't have been a question mark here anyway. The name of the package is java.util. I think there was a question somebody posed during the exam whether I wanted the word Java. Well, the name of the package is java.util. It has to have Java there. I mean, it is not, the package is not named util. The formal name is java.util. The iterator of a class is usually implemented in Java as an inner class. This helps this helps with encapsulation, and it also makes it easy for the iterator class to access the collection related fields of the outer class. Even if they are private, they can be accessed. Write the name of the class that is used to write out serialized data in Java. Object output stream is the class. Remember that something like file output stream has nothing per se to do with serialization. It is used only when you want the serialized data to be stored on disk. The catch clause is always found in connection with a try statement. Runtime type identification. If you use instance of, you can have the compiler catch any misspellings of the name that you use, the class name that you use. There is no exception thrown when you use reflection and you spell the class name wrong. It just wouldn't result in a match.
It doesn't. I thought that in the book, when I read it, it does show an error. Like it says in the textbook somewhere.
It doesn't throw an exception. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
It may be a mistake. For example, if you uh, have something like um, get class dot get name dot equals, and then you put something like book without a capital B, whereas the actual class name is capital B, then it would be a mistake. There would be an error, but Java doesn't throw an exception. It simply says there is a mismatch. This is not belonging to that class. Then, which of the following patterns helps reduce communication complexity? It is mediator. Otherwise, every colleague has to have a path to every other colleague, and that is going to be proportional to the square of the number of colleagues. Whereas here, everybody is sending message to the mediator, which helps with reducing the communication complexity considerably. And the rest of the questions have to do with polymorphism, dynamic binding, and write the name of the variable that has a declared type of b. It is lowercase b. This is the actual type, the one that you create with, and the one that you declare with is the declared type. Then assume that the following code compiles error-free. What is the actual type of reference A after the execution of the third line? This is the third line. At that time, A equals new B. So the actual type would be B. If the statements I1x, I2y compile error-free, x equals y, whether it will compile error-free, I don't know. Will always be compiled. Oh, okay. Sorry. I1x, yeah, right. It will always be compiled error-free. I don't know. Will it always have an error? I can't say that either. Will compile error-free if I2 extends I1? Well, let's check. I2, this is I2 on the right-hand side, and this is I1. So I2 is a subclass of sub-interface of I1, a subtype of I1. So you can put into X something that is a subtype. That is, so this should be okay. But if I1 extends I2, then you cannot have the super type, which is on the right-hand side, go into a subtype. So the correct answer is B. Suppose the following statement does not compile correctly, B, B1 equals new C, then we know what? Well, this is a pretty difficult problem, I think. Let's see. So there is a syntax error here. There is a compilation error here. Then is it, do we know that C extends B? Well, let's see. If C extends B, then anything that is an object of type C would also be an object of type B. So there wouldn't be a compilation error. So this is ruled out. What about B extends C? Well, we can get an error even if this is not true. So we can't be sure that B extends C. For example, B and C could be extending the same superclass. For example, they might both be extending object, in which case also you will get this error. So you can't really say that B extends C. Can we say that C is not a subclass of B? Yeah, if C is a subclass of B, then this would work. So we can say for sure that C is not a subclass of B. And B is not a subclass of C. Well, we could have B a subclass of C and still get that error. So this is the only choice. So it requires a lot of reasoning. So in that sense, I think this is the most difficult question, I feel. 17, A is an abstract class and B is a non-abstract subclass of A. Which of the following is going to be error-free? Well, you can't do this, A equals new A, because that is wrong. This option is wrong because A is an abstract class, you can't create it. A equals new B, well, B is a concrete, that is non-abstract class, so it can be instantiated and you can store it in A. So this is fine. So correct choice is B. Q is a subclass of P. There is a method declared in both classes. Then Q equals new Q. P equals Q. So P is actual type is Q. So if you do P dot M, then it will actually go to the method of M, or rather the method M declared in Q, because it always uses the actual type when you call methods. So the method declared in Q should be called here. Suppose again the same relationship between P and Q, same method, but the only difference is where is M declared. It is declared in the superclass, but not in the subclass. Now, if you call P dot M, the compiler will check, is there an M declared in P? Because the declared type is P. Of course, there is. So there is no compilation error. And where would it go? The only place it can go is the M in P. So there wouldn't be a compilation error. The method declared in P will get called. So the correct choice is this. Q is a subclass of, okay, the same deal. Now the method is declared in Q but not in P. Then if you try to do P dot M, this will be a compilation error because the compiler will check what is the type of declared type of P, capital P. Is there an M in capital P? No. So this is a compilation error. Suppose B is declared to extend A and C. Sorry, I was reading this right. Sorry, B is declared to extend A and C is also declared to extend A. So B and C are both extending A. So there is no direct relationship between B and C. Then you can't have this. This is a compilation error. So here again, B is declared to extend A and C is also declared to extend A. You can't equate them even after casting. Two unrelated classes, unrelated in terms of hierarchy, cannot be equated to each other even with casting. So this is also a compilation error. Suppose C extends B and B extends A. So A is the supermost class and B is in the middle and then C is at the bottom. Then A equals C is fine. I mean, C is a subtype of C. This little c is of type C, which is a subtype of A, and A is of type capital A. So this is fine. No compilation error there. Suppose we have the code array list A, list equals new array list A. So we have an array list with a used for storing objects of type A. B equals new B. Okay, the question is, can you put into this list this object of type B? Well, for that, B has to be either A or a subtype of A. So if B extends A, we are fine. You can't do it in any other situation. And the last question here. This is another tricky one. You have to reason very precisely. What is the question? I1x equals new A, I2y equals new B. These two lines compile error free. Now, x equals y. The question is, okay, if this does not compile, what could be the reason? Well, first thing you have to note is these things don't really matter. What is on the right-hand side doesn't quite matter, because when you have a statement like x equals y, you only look at the types of x and y. Those are the only things that matter to us when we look for a compilation error here. What is the type of x? What is the type of y? This is I1, this is I2. So A and B do not come into the picture at all. So first two options can be discarded immediately. You only need to worry about I1 and I2. And which of the two is the answer? Well, if I2 is a subtype of I1, if I2 extends I1, then this would be fine. So it could be that it has to be that I1 extends I2. Among the four, this is the only possible choice. Of course, there could be other reasons too, but these are the only choices given here. Okay. Any questions before we go to the programming questions? All right. I have, as I said, uploaded the solution to the programming questions. So you can take a look at that. Okay, let me go ahead and share the Eclipse screen. All right. The first question, we have a class called ticket, and it has to have an instance field called serial number. Some of you had it as static. That is not acceptable. And the first ticket has to have a value of a serial number of 1, the second one has to have 2, etc., etc. So this would be a way of getting it. I don't know of many other ways of doing it. And there has to be a method called get serial number, and an abstract method called get price. And here is the toString of the class. Then advance has to extend ticket, and it has to have this constructor that takes in the number of days in which, number of days ahead of the show that this ticket was purchased. If days are greater than or equal to 10, price is 35. Otherwise, there is no need to check if now days is less than 10, which some of you have done. You can simply check if days is greater than 0, because if you ever come here, you know that days is less than 10, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't reach here. Price is now equal to 45. Otherwise, if days is 0 or Even if it is negative, its price is going to be 50. And we need the getter method here. Otherwise, this wouldn't be a concrete class. It will not compile. There is no need. You should not put a get string here because it doesn't do anything useful. So you should not have that method at all. Student advance has to extend advance because it is said to be a type of advance. And you have to have this number of days as parameter to the constructor, and you have to call the superclasses constructor. And this will actually compute the price. So to get the price for student advance, you simply call the superclasses get price and divide by 2 and return that. And toString has to be overridden here, and you call the superclasses toString, which would be actually the ticket classes toString, and you put in this extra message. Questions? Okay, the second one is dealing with the adapter class, as was mentioned, object adapter. That's what you have to do. So the circle class has to have a constructor that gets in the X and Y coordinates and the radius, and they are stored, and you have getters, and you should have a get area because that belongs to the circle. Then band, you have to do it as an object adapter. So you need 2 circles, one for the outer circle, one for the inner one. So given the center of the band, the width of the band, and the radius of the outer circle, you check if the parameters are okay. If so, you create the 2 circles. Otherwise, you throw an exception. And the display method should use the you could simply call get area here. I didn't think about it when I coded this, but anyway, it is like this. Circle one dot get center X, circle one dot get center Y. You shouldn't be storing anything like the center or the radius or anything of that kind here. There is absolutely no need because you're having an adapter here. You're using circle one and circle 2 as adaptees. So the question really called for some thought into distributing the functionality appropriately because we are using an adapter. So when you use the adapter pattern, you try to reuse as much as possible of the superclass. Oh, sorry, not the superclass. Yeah, superclass if it is class adapter, but the class that you use as an adaptee in any case. Questions? Okay, if there are no questions, let's talk about what is going to happen in the next few weeks because we are ready to start on the group projects. So we need to spend some time this evening forming groups. And let me ask this question. Would anyone be unhappy if we allowed whoever wanted to work together and the rest of the students find whoever they want to work with, or I assign them randomly? Would there be an issue?
I would prefer being able to choose.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else who has any thoughts on this? We need to discuss that before we actually do the group assignments. In practice, of course, when you go to industry, you don't get to pick your group members. But here it is a little more understandable because, you know, the difficulty is when you do a class project, there is no boss. So there has to be some kind of trust and all that. And sometimes it might be helpful if you know the people already. Sometimes it might actually destroy a friendship. Who knows? It can happen too. So if it is okay with everybody, I will allow those whoever wants to work with specific classmates to work together, and then whoever cannot find a group, I will try to form the groups with your help and with some randomness. That's what I have been doing over the years. I just wanted to see whether that is going to be acceptable. Okay, I have some chat. Oh yeah, there is randomly assigned might be best. I don't mind being randomly assigned. Yeah, the thing is, you can view it the other way. Okay, and I see one group here. The groups can be 4 to 5 members or even 3, but I don't want it to be less than 3. But and not more than 5. Yeah. Now, if you have you can view it in a different way. Suppose there are 10 students or 12 students who form 3 separate groups because they want to work together. Then again, the other 18 would be randomly assigned. So if you prefer randomly assigned, then I hope you don't mind some other people working together because they are friends or whatever.
Okay. Yeah, I was thinking about that. The people just like the people that wanted to form a group, let them form a group, and then the users that doesn't have a group can just be randomly assigned.
That is what I am suggesting.
That's what I was thinking too. But yeah.
Okay. Okay. That's what you are thinking too, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Then let's do it that way. But before we get into that, let me show you what the group project is. We are not going to spend a whole lot of time going over the problem because you need to read it carefully, discuss it, and then come to me with questions. So let me go ahead and show you what it is before we form the groups. Give me a second. It should be under the folder group projects, I think. And as I am looking for that on my computer, let me say another thing. Next week, we are looking at the design of the library system. And I have uploaded a document under readings that is a newer version of the design chapter. It is actually a different chapter, number 5. You don't have to read the whole thing, but read section 5.4 before you attempt the quiz. Okay. And I will also upload a document for the implementation, because the implementation is going to be substantially different from what is in the book. So I will upload those changes as well and upload the new Java code. Okay. I found the right. Oh, I don't know why I named it as GP2. It should be group project 1. Anyway, I think I gave the wrong name for the document. I can fix that. That's not a huge issue. So this is group project 1, not group project 2. The title says GP2. That is wrong. It's probably because this is section 2. That's why that might be the reason I subconsciously put the name GP2. Okay, this is going to be very similar in spirit to the library system, although it is a totally different application. You have a grocery store, a co-op, in which the members are also the owners. So they buy shares and they become members of the co-op. And so it is like a library in the sense you have members, but in the library you have books and you borrow books. Here you are purchasing grocery items. And so you have enroll member, remove member, add a product like 2% milk from Organic Valley or some such thing, I mean, and then check out a member's item. So somebody comes with a cart. So for every item that is in the cart, you have to check that person out, right? Stuff like that. Then when products fall below a certain threshold, the grocery store reorders these from some suppliers and those things come, and then you have more in stock. Can change the price of a product, and then you can retrieve information about the products. You can list all the members, you can list all the products, etc. So there are 12 so-called business processes. And then there are 3 more. One could say these are business processes, but this would be valid only if you had a computerized system. These other 12 would be there even if you did not have a computer in the store. Okay, so you would still like to see what products you have. You would still like to order things. You'd like to check out people, etc., etc. But so I'm not calling these business processes. It's just a technical thing. You don't have to worry too much about it. So there are 12 business processes, but in your application, there will be 15 commands, okay, to do all these 12 business processes, and then save the data, print a help screen, and exit the program. So the whole thing should look and feel like the library in terms of interaction. Of course, it is an entirely different application. So what it does internally would be totally different, but the look and feel would be the same. You don't want any graphical user interface, etc., etc. And what I also want you to do is test it a little more efficiently than always type things into the program and see the answers. Instead, I want you to invoke a number of test cases to test these first 6 functionalities in an automated manner. So you should use assert statements. Then you need to submit 2 documents, not documents, 2 files. One is a document, a PDF document that contains use cases for 6 business processes. I don't want you to be spending time formally typing in all the use cases, because if you can do 6, I know you can do 12 too. So I don't want you to be spending all that time. Actually, use cases are not that bad, but when it comes to sequence diagrams, which we will see in detail next week, it takes a lot of time to draw those sequence diagrams. So I have stopped torturing students to the extent to the extent I can. So instead of drawing all the sequence diagrams for all business processes, which I used to ask for a few years ago, I've stopped. I am asking only for a limited number of sequence diagrams too. For the same business processes, I want the corresponding sequence diagrams. Then you need to implement all the functionalities. It's not sufficient to implement it for these selected ones. You have to implement the whole thing, and the implementation should be in the same, should have the same kind of sophistication as the library implementation that I will be uploading very soon, okay? Maybe as early as tomorrow. It is a completely revamped implementation. It uses code safety and all that to a reasonable extent. So I think it would be a very interesting piece of code for you to study and mimic. So I would urge you to use the library implementation that I am providing to the fullest extent. You can copy the code. Don't worry about any of the copyrights that is written in that. So you are free to use whatever code that I have uploaded. Some of those you will find valuable because you don't have to write lots of those helper methods to deal with user supply, user data and all that, I mean, otherwise you will have to spend a lot of time cracking out very messy code. So I especially, I'm talking about user interface. Even some of the other classes, you will be able to make use of many of the or at least a reasonable amount of code with, of course, you have to change your the names and all that. I mean, it is a different application. So the names have to be reflecting what is in this application as opposed to a library. So I will create all your setters and getters and many of the constructors and toString, etc., through Eclipse. Don't waste time on those things. Focus on the more difficult parts and enjoy that rather than spend time doing all those routine kinds of things. And here is how I have said how I will be grading your stuff. So go through all that. And let me say one more thing before we form the groups. Hopefully, most of the groups will have like 4 or 5 students. And I want to meet with every group every week, unless there is an exam. The project is due on April 2. It looks like it is far away because this is February and then you're saying April 2nd. So there is a little bit of time, but it would be, it might take a little bit of time for you to actually gel together as a group and get things moving. So what I would recommend is this: to get something, to get a working relationship, I would like you to chat, tell each other who you are, etc., all that stuff, introduce yourselves, do all that, and then read the document carefully, and each member of the group pick one use case in the next 2 or 3 days. That is, if there are 4 students in a group, each one picks one use case. Of course, those use cases have to be very elementary use cases, not something that depends on other things happening. So like adding a member or adding a product, etc. Without adding a member or a product, you can't list anything, right? So look for those dependencies and then pick 4 that would be where any use case would have its dependent use cases in the same or depending use cases in that group. Like if you are choosing add member and add product, you can have the use cases for listing members and listing products, right? Because you already have adding member and adding products. So those four would go together. So pick one use case per student, and then every student in the group writes out that use case. And then you exchange the use cases. And then that will actually help in a couple of ways. One is you will understand the problem much better. You may have questions. You may not understand the document well. There may be inconsistencies in the document. You may catch all that. And the second advantage is you will have done about 1/3 of the use cases within a short period of time. And then next week we are covering design. You can start designing the solution for those use cases next week. And very soon after that, you can implement those 4 use cases. Then you probably have almost 1/3 of the system built in a short period of time. That would be very encouraging for the group. And then you can keep on adding more things in the next 2 weeks or so, or 3 weeks. That would be a very good way of getting started. So tonight, after finishing the class exercise or during that, as you are nearing the end, I would like you to chat with me or for just a couple of minutes, just to say hello, nothing more. And next week, I might have a little more to chat. I mean, there may be more things worth chatting about. I can see how far you have progressed and stuff like that, whether you have questions and whether there are any, and how things are going within your group and so on. Okay. So I'm going to stop recording unless you have questions. Do you have any thoughts before we form the groups? And from today onwards, I will be assigning each group to the same room. I mean, the group that you form for the group project, they would all be in the same room. For the rest of the semester, that is going to be the case, unless there is an exam, in which case, of course, everybody is in this room. Okay, let me stop.